This video is a product review of Walthers Proto GP9 in a Phase 3 variation in the Illinois Central Orange and White scheme. These are high hood units, and these are both DCC with sound. The release date on these locomotives was July 2024. So let's just jump right into it. I'll do the unboxing here after I get through this part of the video. I like to just jump right in and do a quick sound and light check so you can really get a chance to appreciate this locomotive. So after I'm done with this, stick around for the unboxing. I'll show you some of the spotting features of the Phase 3 GP9s, show you some of the prototype models and how Walthers was able to accurately model this locomotive. And I'll also go through and do a sound demonstration with the speaker upgrade on these locomotives. Now that you had the opportunity to do a quick review of the sound functions of these locomotives, I'll go ahead and jump into the unboxing. And again, very typical of Walthers Proto, styrofoam packaging. It has this outer blister with a plastic clamshell case to keep the locomotive protected. Here's the documentation. We'll look at that here in just a few minutes. We'll go ahead and get this out of the package. They do send some plastic protection. Pull up on that. One of the things I do like about a new change that Walthers did, they're now putting the styrofoam blocks to protect the front stanchions along with the long hood stanchions. So we'll pull these out real quick and we'll take a quick look and talk about the prototype model. So real quick, just looking at this locomotive out of the packaging, very impressive details. Point out just a few of them because this is a proto model. It does have a lot of separately applied features like your coupler cut lever, MU receptacle, the drop stand for the walkway, has all your MU hoses, also has separately applied grab irons, bell, hood mounted on, or the horn mounted on the short hood. Prototypically correct, and I'll go into a little bit more variation on this. It has the two 48-inch radiator fans, which are indicative spotting feature for a Phase 3 GP9. Earlier versions had something different, and I'll show you that here in just a few minutes. And just taking a good look at this locomotive. Very impressive detail. The paint is nice and crisp. The lettering appears to be the correct Illinois Central font from back when they went to the orange and white scheme in the late 60s, early 70s. Sunshade, which on these they were more of the fabric type that the crew could roll up and don't have to have them extended. Just a quick look at the rear of the locomotive again. You can see the grab irons, all of the separately applied detail. The Illinois Central orders featured the chicken wire over the grill inserts, and you have a grab iron right here behind the engineer door. Take a look at the front here. Again, very good detail on this locomotive. So what I ended up doing is several years ago, and I do have product review on these, Walthers in their main line offering had a GP9 in their Phase 2 variation, and I think this was released by Walthers probably 5-6 years ago. You can search through my YouTube channel and get a video review of these. But what I really wanted to do is point out the significant differences between a Phase 3 GP9 and a Phase 2 or earlier version of GP9. Probably the biggest noticeable difference outwardly are again the differences between the radiator fans. The Phase 1 and 2 versions had two 36-inch fans at both the front and the rear of the long hood. Phase 3 variation had the two 48-inch fans. Another area I wanted to highlight as a spotting feature, a little bit more subtle on the Phase 3 variation versus the Phase 2 variation. If you look at this, and what I'm showing you here is the Phase 3 version, and you can see probably the biggest noticeable difference is the fuel filter is at the front end of the fuel tanker closest to the cab of the unit. You'll also notice that it's got more of a rounded top here in the skirt. It doesn't overhang, it's not flush with the skirt. So that's going to compare differently to the Phase 2, and let me swap these out here. So the Phase 2 fuel tank, you can see it, and again this is the mainline version. The fuel filler is at the rear of the fuel tank or farther away from the cab. You can see the skirt down there, and the fuel tank is actually flush with the skirt. So again, not super noticeable, but if you look at the prototype photos, and I'm going to show you a couple prototype photos up on the screen right now, Walthers did do a really good job of hitting the main spotting features with the Phase 3 variation compared to the Phase 2 variation. You know, again, some people might think that it's very subtle differences or might not even notice the differences other than the radiator fan. So really kudos to Walthers for putting the time and effort and research into this. They didn't just take their Phase 2 body mold and try to pass it off as a Phase 3. They really did their research and hit the main points with the Phase 3 variation. One last spotting feature for the Phase 3 GP9s that I almost neglected to mention that Walthers did get correct. You see on the battery box here, there are two sets of louvers on the Phase 1 and the Phase 2 GP9s, it was a single set of louvers. So again, just another very subtle spotting feature of the Phase 3 GP9 compared to the previous versions. So I did mention it real quick in the unboxing. Here is the documentation. This is what a lot of people like to take a look at, or just through the documentation what the DCC functions are. So what is listed here is not necessarily how it's programmed on the locomotive, but regardless, F0 headlight, F1 bell, F2 horn, etc. These particular GP9s don't have dynamic brakes, so F4 is not assigned. There's no warning light. There's no ditch lights. However, this does have the number board, so that was the F6. Compressors F7, F8 is startup and shutdown, F9 drive hold, F10 brake, and F11 auxiliary lights, and this locomotive doesn't have any. Also, just within that, here are some of the CV numbers. You can pause the video if you want to see what the CV address is and the default value for that. Here's just, again, the basic operations of the locomotive. The other paperwork that came with this is just some basic maintenance for the locomotive, and then also there is the parts diagram that you can take a look at. Here's a final look at this and how I'm going to end this video. Again, if you're used to my YouTube channel, you know that I have done some speaker upgrades on a lot of my locomotives. I do tend to gravitate towards the scale sound system speakers. I think it really creates a rich, authentic sound coming out of these locomotives. So I'm not actually going to show the speaker swap out on these. They do have factory installed speakers since it's a DCC and sound version. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a test of the sound with this particular model with the scale sound system speakers and compare that to the default speaker. So I'm going to go ahead and swap one of these speakers out. We'll do a little bit of a test and you can hear the sound differences, and then we'll end the video. So I'm going to upgrade the speakers on these locomotives to a scale sound system speaker. Earlier in 2024, I produced a video of the Walthers prototype, or the Walthers Proto GP9, where I upgraded the factory speaker to a scale sound system speaker. The process for this is exactly the same. The shell comes off the same way as the GP9. The speakers in the exact same location. So I'm not going to demonstrate actually swapping the speaker out, but I am going to demonstrate the sound quality differences between the factory speaker, which right now is in 9339, and then I will bring the other locomotive over. I'm not changing any of the settings. These are still all factory CV settings. The camera distance will not change, and I'm going to run through a startup sequence, ring the bell, run the horn, and then run it up to notch 8 in the drive hold mode. So I just want you to appreciate the difference between the factory speaker and then what an upgraded speaker can do for the sound quality of your locomotives. So I hope you enjoyed this video. These are great locomotives. I appreciate Walthers for producing these. Anytime you can get a first generation diesel in Illinois Central, you know, this was right when they switched over from the green diamond scheme to the orange and white. They were getting ready to start doing a lot more of this type of paint scheme. Eventually they merged with the Gulf Mobile in Ohio. They do a rebuild program at Paducah, taking a lot of these worn out GP9s and making them into GP10s and GP11s. So I'm real happy with these models. It goes great with the era of my layout, and look forward to producing a operating session with these locomotives real soon. So take care, happy railroading, and we'll see you down the road sometime.